welcome to the Lake House experience. I think Darlene knows how to do that a little better. I think just cut this as a video. Our goal here in the Lake House is to uncover and understand the things that actually happened back in the Cauldron Lake AWE that happened in 2000 when the famous writer, one of my favorites, actually simply vanished. We've never been this close to understand how Cauldron Lake works. Being turned in the abstract into numbers. We try to understand art, like literally, trying to quantify it, to push it into its limits. We are decoding metaphors, feelings, emotions, turning them into something concrete. We have endless data, it's unbelievable. Honestly, at first I thought this was crazy, I was crazy, but as the research progresses, I've seen things that I thought weren't possible. I can't wait for you to experience Lake House, but be aware, there's one rule you must follow. No art. Nothing. No writing, doodling, sketching, cross-hatching, nail painting, whispering, thinking about music, and just, please, for the love of God, there were enough AWEs already in this facility, so please, sorry, I toned down. Anyway, no art, just that, okay? Thank you so much. Make yourself at home and enjoy. Welcome to the Lake House.
Could you describe to me what art is? And I don't mean for you personally, no. I want to know if you could truly describe art. Turn it into a sentence, a solution to a problem. Black and white, a fact that anyone could agree on, a single universal definition.
And so you just stay alert, do your work, don't worry about the world going by. It doesn't mean that you can sit around and not do anything. You've got to get your butt in gear and do it.
Dave Lynch once said, art is the big question mark. It can be quantified and you can create an exact formula to get the same result. Art is subjective. It's shaped not only by our experiences, but also by our current surroundings, our day-to-day lives, the people around us, and society as a whole. All these things are just tiny fractions of the big question mark that art is. It keeps changing and evolving. If you take a song from the 80s, it might have an entirely different meaning 40 years later. Art cannot be confined by a mold. It doesn't have one shape, but it can transform into many. Art is a mystery. It tells a story that is not conclusive. It leaves all the puzzle pieces dangling in the air for you to piece together and form your own conclusion. It respects the viewer. It intrigues. It hurts. It makes you laugh. Sometimes makes you question a fact or maybe even change your perspective. It's a pledge to a story that doesn't end with punctuation, but with a question mark. We can't say and probably never be able to unify the concept of art, but we can label things as art. A song, a poem, a movie script, and the movie itself. One thing we can say for certain is that art doesn't follow deadlines. Art can be sold, but not as a product. It's sold as art. Nowadays, games, movies, and songs are released each and every month. Every big release is marked with expectations and the anxiety of fulfilling that need for more. We need more songs from that band, more sequels from that game, more movies about that story. We always need more. And the industry hears us. They don't care if the story ends in one season, as long as they can double the money by making another one. We get mad when you see a gaming company announce its release date 2 or 3 years ahead, instead of being relieved that they are taking their time to carefully craft their artwork, their masterpiece. Art cannot be rushed, pushed, strangled, or demanded. Art flows, is pure, shapeless, timeless, raw, visceral, chaotic, formless. Art is human, and humans cannot be labeled or explained. We are unique, protagonists of our own invisible plot. Art is human, and humans are art. It's a part of us that we share, that we put on a canvas to show to the world, to a few people, or maybe just to stay in a quiet corner of our room. Art is unseen, and you can put money on it, measure time on it, or define boundaries like the industry demands these days. There are plenty of things that can be considered art, and one of those things, which is the focus of this video, is video games. More specifically, Alan Wake 2 latest DLC, The Lake House. It's not a lake, it's the ocean. And I have to agree, Alan Wake 2 showcases Remedy at its peak, not just in terms of graphics, but also storytelling. It's bold, ambitious, and ambiguous, like any great mystery should be. Despite focusing on a horror-driven narrative this time, Alan Wake explores themes that parallels art itself. Remedy creates art. They are among a few who not only want, but also can take their time with their projects. So, it wasn't surprising when this DLC delves into themes that can be tied to the current state of the industry, greed, and AI.
I'm a writer. I write. Writing is the key. Art is the key to find my way out of the dark place. I can't forget this. Don't you fucking forget this. I'm in the dark place. I'm outside time and space, outside reality. But this is real. A nightmare dimension, an ocean of darkness. Remember, its dark energy can make art come true, make dreams and nightmares come true. Yes, I can use this. I need to use this. Hungry, monstrous things out there, plotting to stop me, to devour me, become me. Oh no.
Lake House takes place just before Saga finds Alan Wake. Following the attack on him and Casey by the Code of the Tree, we play as Kieran Estevez, a field agent from the FBC who arrives at the scene with her team after receiving a call from the Lake House regarding a AWE. If you don't know, this call is the same one that we saw at the end of the Control AWE DLC. Estevez decides to go inside alone, planning to call for backup if necessary. We make our way through a massive rainy forest, following a muddy path that leads to the Lake House, an FBC facility conducting experiments near Cauldron Lake. Their goal was to open a threshold between the dark place, referred to here as the shadow, and our reality, essentially attempting to achieve what Alan did back in 2010. Upon entering the lifeless facility, we are greeted by a welcome video from the eerily empty space. This video is not only important for providing context about the Lake House, but also introduces key characters who will play a vital role in helping the player piece together the story.
You said it, Diana. We run a tight ship here at the Lake House. So, always remember the 3 S's. Safety, security, and censorship.
It's a C. It's a C.
What? Yeah, that is the joke, Diana.
Well, it's a stupid Wonderful joke, Jules. We'll see you down there.
Yeah, that seems healthy.
The Lake House is a treasure hunt. Your time will be spent reading, collecting, and questioning. It takes its time, allowing the player to digest everything. It's a slow burn, like a candy wrapper being carefully unfolded after someone has crumpled it. But the candy inside, it's actually pretty good. We begin learning about Diana and Jules Marmont, the heads of research at the Lake House facility. They were the driving force behind uncovering the mysteries of Cauldron Lake. Early on, it becomes clear that while they were married, their relationship was strained, particularly when it came to the project. Though they shared a similar goal, they chose to form separate groups of scientists to work towards opening the threshold between realities. However, their methods for achieving these results differ significantly. With that said, we can look back to the question posed at the beginning of the video. Could you describe what art is? Could you define it? Jules and Diana were attempting to push the boundaries of the abstract, to force an entry into the unattainable answers they sought. The researchers at the Lake House were aware of the connection between art and Cauldron Lake, something already explored by Dr. Hartman in the first game, bringing the story full circle back to the enigmatic waters of Cauldron Lake. There is an undeniably link between the lake and art, but how do you extract answers for something that defies definition? Jules and Diana spearheaded 2 projects, each assembling their own teams of researchers to chase this impossible question. Diana initiated Project Arbutus, focusing on meticulously studying the script pages written by Alan Wake, line by line, word by word, in an effort to replicate his writing. As Agent Estevez delves into the lower levels of the facility, she uncovers files detailing previous attempts and even pages from Wake's manuscript that describe Diana, Jules, and their entire story. It's revealed that everything they were doing had already been written by Alan Wake. This revelation unsettled both Mormons, but only Diana had the courage to break through this barrier of fear and continue her research into Wake's writing. Pages and pages were painstakingly analyzed and dissected, verbs and adjectives counted, structure reverse engineered, all in a futile attempt to distill a formula for art. It was, of course, destined to fail, but the truly unsettling moment comes when you enter a wide, shadowy room filled with machines. These machines are connected to typewriters, endlessly clacking, echoing away in a desperate attempt to replicate Alan Wake's style on a massive scale. The room is a haunting scene, an army of machines trying to simulate emotion, trying to replicate humanity itself. When it comes to the creative process of art, it's always really hard to describe or come up with an exact explanation of how an artist works. Just like their creations, the process is subjective. There's a lot of discourse about AI overtaking artists' jobs, killing commission artists. Why hire an artist when you can simply type a few words and get a result that satisfies your needs? That was the most predominant question when AI started to dominate the market. But now, a few years later, we can say for certain that AI and art are not always so good. More and more accounts and YouTube channels are using AI for basically everything. This pollution of algorithms has become increasingly noticeable in recent years. Content feels soulless because it is. The same font used by AI apps, which share the same foundation but have different names. Marketing campaigns using AI to generate images that all look very similar. LinkedIn posts, YouTube videos, books, everything feels soulless because it was written by a machine. Companies hiring AI artists, programmers who don't know how to code, but can stumble their way into getting hired for an IT job. AI facilitates, but it has its patterns. Us humans, we do have patterns, but they vary greatly from person to person. Our culture is rich, full of memes passed on from thousands of years. Now, things are being substituted by automation and efficiency. Being efficient generates more money. Less time equals more money. Quality can sometimes get you more money, but it's risky. So let's just stay efficient. Quickly, soulless. Soulless results, soulless games, soulless movies, soulless money. I love the parallel that Alan Wake brings to the table, especially with Remedy. They really have the authority to provoke such thoughts. The industry has been growing steadily since the mid-80s, after the 1983 crash, surpassing music and even movies. Nowadays, people can play games basically anywhere. Even my mom, who didn't like video games when I was a kid, plays a city builder on her phone in her spare time. It's just insane the demand that this market has. And that's why we get Call of Duty every single year. Black Ops 6 and the latest entries have not only been accused, but also proven to have stolen content from other artists, using AI to making calling cards, icons, and much more. How long will you take for games to start creating NPCs that are 100% AI based? AI models, AI voices, AI scripts. This can and probably will happen, but I don't think those games will be memorable at all. Handcrafted and passionate games will become a luxury if the industry decides to take this path. Great might get you money for now, but I doubt it will last. When art becomes a product, the quality is never the same. You can hire the most talented artists, but if you push and shape them, you never get the result the public truly wants. You can constrain art, you can hold it on a leash, and that's exactly what Jules Mormont's other project tests. How far can you push art?
Hi everyone, Dr. Sin again, and welcome to the day 3000 of Project Aquarium. I know, it's a big number. Yeah, the project being up for this long, I guess. Today I managed to revise all possible branches of every possible outcome that could happen if Project Aquarium decides to act weirdly. So the only thing that is impeding progress right now, it's the Mormonts. I need to ask Jules about some results that I sent to him. I need him to revise some calculations that I've made. But he and his wife, they just keep fighting like every single day, even over emails. We can't take a break, and it just feels like third grade all over again. Jules keeps talking about this Project Remnants or something like that, using a live subject, a citizen, to force him to fucking paint endlessly. Every day I get reports and complaints about Jules screaming or pushing that poor guy. Doesn't seem well. I don't think he's going to last much longer. I thought the FBC was a beacon of light when I joined. I thought it was my beacon of hope.
Jules' objective, like Diana, was to create a safe link between our reality and Cauldron Lake Threshold. While Diana focused all her efforts on Project Arbutus, Jules created Project Reminisce. Diana's project initially relied on machinery, but Jules chose a different path. To replicate the results that Alan achieved, he focused on the essence of art itself, the human connection and raw emotion that art requires. Jules believed this emotion bond was the key, so he brought in a candidate, painter, named Rudolph Lane, a character we first encountered in Hartman's horrifying clinic in the original Alan Wake game. Jules hypothesized that human emotion was the vital ingredient in Alan Wake's success. Study of Alan's work concluded that emotion permeated every page he wrote. To replicate this with Rudolph, the FBC sought to quantify that emotion, attempting to measure and materialize an abstract concept they could wield as a tool. After the incident at Hartman's cabin by Cauldron Lake, Rudolph spent time in a hospital before returning to his home in Watery. During that period, the FBC was scouting suitable candidates for experiments at the Lake House facility. Artists, particularly those listed in Dr. Hartman's records, became targets. One of the names carved into that list was Rudolph Lane. Rudolph was taken by the FBC and ordered to paint. Not one or two paintings, but endlessly. They needed data, statistics to dissect, and a way to quantify and translate the emotion behind his work. At first, Rudolph painted as he always had, treating like it was just another project. But as the demands grew, he began to question the purpose of his work. Why was he painting? Inspiration faded. The process became mechanical. Rudolph was turning into a machine, a mass production factory running out of coal. When progress on the project slowed, the FBC took drastic measures. They began drugging his food and likely subjected him to experimental drug therapy, as suggested by files found throughout the facility. Rudolph was trapped in a mental and physical cage, forced to create. Each paint became increasingly abstract, devoid of purpose or any emotion. His once passionate strokes turned mindless and painful. The FBC pushed him beyond his limits, draining him of ideas, inspiration, and life. In desperation, Rudolph's art style begins to shift. His once sorrowful strokes became chaotic explosions of rage, confusion, and despair. His work grew more abstract, harder to study or classify. It was raw, violent, a visceral outpouring of his dying spirit. Yet, the FBC continued to demand more, driving him to the brink. Finally, Rudolph reached his breaking point and decided to create his final masterpiece. On the fateful day, Rudolph abandoned his brush. It was just him, paint, and the canvas, a pure, unfiltered expression of himself. In a moment of catharsis, Rudolph painted his own essence. This final self-portrait became a transcendent act, the ultimate convergence of art and artist. Rudolph poured his entire being into the painting, and in doing so, he was consumed by it. His physical body collapsed, lifeless on the ground, while his spirit became one with his magnum opus, his final, most unrestrained work of art. The world is rapidly evolving. 10 years today feels vastly different from 10 years ago. Demand is increasing alongside the efficiency with which that demand is met. It doesn't need to be the best work. It just needs to sell enough to justify making another, repeating the endless cycle. After watching this video, can you truly define what art is anymore? Or perhaps, more importantly, what art has become? Has it turned into a cheap product that anyone can replicate? An expression strangled by censorship, or soulless songs on the radio that all sound eerily alike? We've become obsessed with speed, urging ourselves to accomplish our goals as fast as possible. Why wait a year to complete a project when you can just cut corners, find shortcuts, and finish in 2 months instead? It's easy to blame the industry, but we must also remember we are the consumers. We are the ones buying, asking, demanding. We are hungry for sequels and instant gratification. Who cares if it takes 2 years to develop? We want it now. Society has grown short-sighted, impatient, and more divided than ever. We hear claims that gaming is dying, that art is dying. But if art is the raw emotion of humanity, could the root of this inevitable demise be us? Are we the ones who are dying? Or are we the murderers?
During my time in the lake house, I spent countless hours researching, finding, collecting Alan Wake manuscript pages for, of course, the Marmons project. But in the process, I stumbled upon those oddly similar pages. But of course, they are not Alan Wake pages. I know that, in fact, because it's a different font, different writing style. Actually, to be more precise, those pages look more like a movie script. Actually, no. Or maybe a video script. It all started with a page, then another, and another, and another, and of course, as you can see, it turned out to be the whole script. The weird thing is that this thing knows me. It knows my story. It knows everything about me, even my thoughts, things that I never said to anyone, ever. It knows me. Every step I've taken until this very moment is written right here. And of course, this is the final page. It tells me exactly what I have to do. I try to avoid it. I really did. But a character must follow the story. This might be my last video. I study every possible outcome, every branching path, and still, I don't know if it will work. But after 8 years, this is the only sliver of hope that I've found. A tiny crack in the endless cycle of research led me here, to this script. I have nothing to lose. I lost it all 80 years ago. Now it's finally time for me to come to peace with it. This is the closure of Project Aquarium. If someone ever finds this, just know that I dedicated everything. I dedicated my whole life just to find you, my love. I wish we had 100 more years.